Tasha Jones had always dreamed of becoming a famous rapper. Growing up in the tough neighborhood of East Harlem, she knew music was her only way out. She spent every free moment writing lyrics and practicing her rhymes, hoping one day someone would notice her. At 22 years old, Tasha finally caught a break. A local music producer, Ray Biggs Williams, had heard her mixtape and was impressed. He offered to sign her and help her record her debut album. Tasha was thrilled, knowing this could be the moment that changed everything. Biggs had connections in the music industry, and soon Tasha was working in a real studio with top-notch equipment. She poured all her energy into writing new songs, many of which were inspired by her turbulent relationship with her boyfriend, Marcus. Tasha and Marcus had been together for almost 2 years, but things hadn't been easy. They fought often, mostly because of Marcus's controlling behavior. He didn't like the attention Tasha was getting from other men and was constantly jealous of her success. Tasha was torn. She loved Marcus, but his actions were becoming harder to ignore. She couldn't deny how stifling his jealousy made her feel. As she worked on her music, she began to channel her frustrations into her lyrics. She wrote about how Marcus would always try to keep her down, controlling her every move. The lyrics were raw and filled with emotion, capturing the pain she felt. It was a mix of love, anger, and betrayal. One of the tracks, Locked In, was about Marcus's possessiveness and how it suffocated her. The lyrics were biting. You say you love me, but you keep me in chains. Can't breathe, can't move, but you're calling my name. You say you want me, but you're pushing me away. And now I'm breaking free. I'm done with the games. Tasha was excited to release the track. She knew it was going to make waves, but she also knew it might stir trouble. Marcus hadn't seen her new music yet, and she wasn't sure how he would react. She had tried to talk to him about her feelings, but Marcus always dismissed her concerns, accusing her of being ungrateful. He never understood how difficult it was to be with him and chase her dreams at the same time. The night of the release party arrived, and Tasha felt a mixture of excitement and dread. Her friends and fellow artists showed up, and the vibe was electric. Everyone was eager to hear her new music, and Tasha was ready to show the world what she could do. As she stepped up to the mic and performed Locked In for the first time, the crowd went wild. It was everything she had dreamed of. The beats dropped, and her voice rang out strong and clear. The lyrics spoke to the audience, and they could feel her pain. But there was one person who wasn't clapping. Marcus stood at the back of the room, his arms crossed, his face dark. Tasha could see the anger in his eyes, but she tried not to let it bother her. After the performance, she was surrounded by fans and industry people, congratulating her, but Marcus didn't approach her. He stormed out of the venue, and Tasha knew things were about to get ugly. Later that night, as she was packing up, Tasha received a message from Marcus. It was short and to the point. You embarrassed me tonight. We're done. Her heart sank. She didn't want to lose Marcus, but she knew deep down that things couldn't go on like this. As much as she loved him, she couldn't keep suppressing her voice just to make him happy. Little did she know, that message would be the beginning of the end. Tasha couldn't sleep that night. She tossed and turned in her bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Marcus's words kept echoing in her head. We're done. She had expected some fallout after releasing the song, but she never thought it would lead to this. The thought of losing him hurt, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized their relationship had always been complicated. The next morning, Tasha woke up to a string of missed calls and texts from Marcus. He wasn't letting her go that easily. The messages were a mixture of anger, confusion, and desperation. I can't believe you did that to me. You think I'm just some fool you can write about? We need to talk. I'm coming over. Tasha knew Marcus well. When he got like this, he was hard to control. She didn't want to argue, but part of her felt that she needed to stand up for herself. She had worked too hard to get to this point in her career, and she wasn't going to let him tear her down. But the thought of facing him, of confronting their broken relationship, made her feel anxious. She decided to meet him at her apartment. Marcus showed up around noon, his usual tough exterior masking a simmering rage. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like he hadn't slept. Tasha took a deep breath and opened the door. I didn't think you'd show up, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Marcus didn't say anything at first. He just pushed past her into the living room and threw himself down onto the couch. The silence between them was thick, the kind of silence that screamed there were too many unsaid things hanging in the air. Why did you do it, Tasha? He finally asked, his voice low but full of accusation. Why do you have to air our dirty laundry for everyone to hear? Tasha crossed her arms, taking a deep breath. It's not about airing dirty laundry, Marcus. It's about telling my truth. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. You've been controlling, and it's been eating away at me. Marcus stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Controlling? You think I'm controlling? You're the one who's always out there. Showing off? Acting like you're too good for me now. His voice was rising, and Tasha could see his fists clenching at his sides. Tasha stepped back, not wanting to make him angrier. But at the same time, she couldn't hold it in anymore. I'm not acting like I'm better than you, Marcus. I just can't do this anymore. I've been stifled for so long. By you, by everything. I need to be myself. I need to live my life, my way. If you can't accept that, then maybe we're better off apart. For a moment, Marcus was silent. His eyes shifted, as if he was processing what she said. Then, without warning, he took a step toward her, his expression shifting from anger to something more dangerous. You think you can just throw me away like I'm nothing? He sneered. After everything I've done for you? Tasha froze, her heart pounding. She could feel the tension crackling in the room. But this time, she didn't back down. I'm not throwing you away, Marcus. But you need to realize that I'm not the same person I was when we first met. I have dreams, and they don't involve being controlled by anyone. For a second, it seemed like he might calm down. But then his anger flared again, this time with a violent intensity that made Tasha's blood run cold. You think you're some big shot now, huh? You think you're better than me because you have a song on the radio? His voice was getting louder, more unhinged. Tasha's hands began to tremble. Marcus, please. We don't have to do this. He stepped closer, his breath hot on her face. You think you're all grown up now? I made you. I gave you a place to stay when you had nothing. You owe me, Tasha. You owe me everything. Tasha felt a chill run through her. The words stung, but it was the way he said them, possessive, threatening, that sent a shiver down her spine. She had known Marcus could be jealous and controlling, but this was different. This was dangerous. I don't owe you anything, Tasha said, her voice shaking but firm. I owe myself the chance to live my life. That was it. Something snapped in Marcus's eyes. Without warning, he grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her hard. You think you can just leave me, huh? You think you can just walk away from everything we've built? His hands tightened around her arms, and Tasha felt a jolt of fear. She had never seen him this violent. She struggled, trying to pull free, but he was stronger than she expected. Let go of me, Marcus. She shouted, but he didn't. Instead, he yanked her toward him, pressing his lips against hers in a harsh, possessive kiss. Tasha pushed him away, her heart racing. This wasn't the man she had fallen in love with. This was someone else. Someone she didn't recognize. I'm done, Marcus, she said again, her voice steady despite the fear building in her chest. He stared at her for a long time, his eyes wild with anger and confusion. Finally, he let her go, backing away with a sneer. You think you're so tough? You think you can leave me like this? You'll regret it, Tasha. I promise you. With that, he stormed out of her apartment, slamming the door behind him. Tasha stood there for a moment, catching her breath. She had never been more afraid of Marcus than she was in that moment. And she had no idea that this was only the beginning of what would become a deadly confrontation. The days that followed Marcus's outburst were a strange mix of relief and dread for Tasha. She couldn't believe how quickly everything had escalated. 1 minute, she was celebrating her big break. And the next, her world was unraveling. She hadn't heard from Marcus since their argument. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. The tension in the air was thick, and it seemed as if everyone around her was aware of the storm brewing. Even though no one spoke about it, Tasha threw herself into her work. She recorded more tracks, determined to focus on her music and make her career her top priority. It was hard to concentrate with the looming anxiety, but she refused to let Marcus's unpredictable behavior derail her. Music had always been her escape, and now, more than ever, she needed it. One evening, after a long studio session, she was walking back to her apartment when she saw a group of fans hanging outside the building, excited to see her. Tasha smiled and signed a few autographs, trying to act normal despite the heaviness she felt inside. She hadn't realized how much her life had changed until she saw the people waiting for her. It was strange, but it felt good to be recognized for her hard work. As she made her way to her door, she noticed a piece of paper wedged under the mat. It was a folded note, and her heart skipped a beat when she saw the handwriting on the front. Tasha, we need to talk. It was from Marcus. Tasha hesitated before picking it up, her fingers trembling. She could feel the weight of his words already. The note was simple but chilling. You think I'm just going to let you go? I've tried to stay calm, but you've made a mistake. I gave you everything, and now I'm going to take what's mine. Tasha's stomach dropped. The cold edge in his words sent a wave of fear through her. She had never thought Marcus was capable of real violence. But after that night in her apartment, she wasn't so sure. He was unpredictable, and now, she realized, he had crossed a line. She quickly slipped inside her apartment and locked the door behind her. Her mind racing. What was Marcus planning? Was he watching her right now? Was this the calm before the storm? Tasha tried to push the fear aside, but it was hard. She called her best friend, Layla, to talk things through. Layla had been a constant support throughout the roller coaster of Tasha's relationship with Marcus. I don't know, Layla. I just have this feeling he's going to do something crazy, Tasha said, pacing back and forth in her small living room. He's not just going to let me go, I can tell. Layla's voice was steady on the other end. Tasha, listen to me. You've got to be careful. Marcus has always had a temper, and now it sounds like he's lost control. You need to take precautions. I'm serious. Get a restraining order, change your locks. Maybe even get a security system for your apartment. Tasha nodded, but the idea of taking drastic steps like that made her feel uneasy. She didn't want to believe it had come to this. She had known Marcus for so long, and even though he could be controlling, she never imagined he would go this far. But something in his note made her feel like she couldn't ignore the warning signs anymore. I'm going to take your advice, Layla. I'll look into it. But I'm scared. I don't know what he's capable of anymore. I get it, Layla said. Just promise me you'll be careful. Don't trust him. If he shows up, don't open the door. Don't give him a chance to get close. After hanging up, Tasha sat in her living room, staring at the note in her hand. Her mind kept replaying the words, and she couldn't shake the image of Marcus, standing at her door with that dangerous look in his eyes. She had to face the reality that the man she loved had become a threat, and she didn't know how far he would go. The next few days felt like an eternity. Tasha took Layla's advice and installed a security system in her apartment. She also started carrying a pepper spray keychain and made sure to lock every door and window at night. The sense of unease never left her, and each time she heard a noise outside her window, her heart would race. Was it him? Was he out there, watching her? As much as Tasha tried to stay focused on her music, the fear never left. She kept waiting for Marcus to show up, but when he didn't, she couldn't help but wonder if he was plotting something even worse, something she wasn't prepared for. One afternoon, she went to the local coffee shop to grab a drink, hoping the change of scenery would help clear her mind. As she stood in line, scrolling through her phone, she saw a message from Ray Biggs Williams. It was a quick note, congratulating her on the success of her first single, and asking if she wanted to meet up to discuss the next steps for her album. Tasha felt a small wave of relief. Biggs was her manager now, and despite his tough exterior, he was one of the few people who had always treated her with respect. She knew she could count on him, at least professionally. But even in the brief moment of calm, she couldn't ignore the gnawing feeling that something was off, that something terrible was waiting just around the corner. That night, as she returned to her apartment, she noticed something strange. The door was slightly ajar. Her heart stopped. She stood frozen for a moment, staring at the gap in the doorframe. Had she forgotten to lock it? Or had someone, Marcus, been inside? She slowly approached the door, her body trembling. The apartment was dark, the only sound her shallow breathing. She pushed the door open, one hand gripping her pepper spray tightly. The room was still, eerily quiet. She checked the locks, the windows, everything. But nothing seemed out of place. But then, she found it. On her bed, laying in the middle of the comforter, was a single rose, blood red, and at the base of the stem was a note. It read, "You can't run from me forever." Tasha's blood ran cold. The note on her bed felt like a knife to the chest. Tasha's fingers trembled as she stared at the rose and the ominous words. She couldn't breathe. 1,000 thoughts ran through her head, but none of them made sense. Was Marcus really capable of this? Had he been in her apartment while she was gone? For a moment, She just stood there, paralyzed with fear. The room seemed to close in around her. Every shadow, every creak of the building, felt like it was part of his plan. The rose was beautiful, but it was a gift with dark intentions. Tasha's heart was hammering in her chest as she dropped the note, slowly backing away from the bed. She knew this was more than just an angry ex. Marcus had crossed a line. This wasn't about love or jealousy anymore. This was about control, and he wasn't going to let her go without a fight. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of her panic. It was a message from Layla. "Are you okay? I've been trying to reach you. Call me." Tasha quickly texted back, her hands still shaking. "I'm not okay. I think he's been here. He left me a rose and a note." The response was almost immediate. "Tasha, you need to go to the police. This is escalating, and he's not going to stop. I'll be there in 5 minutes." Tasha couldn't argue with that. She had been trying to handle everything on her own, hoping Marcus would just go away. But it was clear now that he wasn't going to. She needed help. She quickly grabbed her keys, threw on her jacket, and checked the locks on all the doors and windows once more. The apartment felt suffocating, and she wanted nothing more than to escape. But she knew she had to stay put until Layla arrived. 5 minutes later, Layla knocked on the door, looking concerned but determined. When Tasha let her in, Layla's eyes immediately scanned the room, landing on the rose on the bed. "I knew he was dangerous, but this is next level," Layla said, her voice filled with worry. Tasha sat down on the couch, feeling exhausted. "I don't know what to do. I've tried to talk to him, but he won't listen. I feel like I'm just waiting for the worst to happen." Layla knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "We need to call the police. This isn't just a breakup anymore. It's stalking. You have evidence now. This note, the rose. He's not playing around. He's sending you a message, and it's not a good one." Tasha hesitated. She didn't want to involve the police, didn't want to admit that her life was out of control. But Layla was right. This had gone too far. It was no longer about a breakup. It was about her safety. "I'll call them," Tasha said, her voice barely above a whisper. She dialed the number for the local precinct, her hands shaking as she explained the situation. The dispatcher was calm and professional, asking her for details. Tasha felt like her heart was going to explode as she described the note and the rose, the fear that had been building inside her since the first fight with Marcus. She didn't know how much longer she could keep living like this. After she hung up, Layla gave her a reassuring smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "They'll send someone over to take a report. Maybe they can put a stop to this before it gets worse." Tasha nodded, though she didn't feel reassured. The police would come, take the report, and maybe even warn Marcus to stay away. But would that be enough to stop him? Would it be enough to protect her? The minutes felt like hours as they waited for the officers to arrive. When they finally knocked on the door, Tasha's stomach churned. She let them in, and they took the note and the rose into evidence, asking her a series of questions about Marcus's behavior and whether she had any previous interactions with the police. They were kind but professional, and their presence made Tasha feel a small sense of relief. She wasn't alone anymore. "We'll be in touch," one of the officers said as they prepared to leave. "We'll issue a warning to him. If he continues to harass you, we'll take further action. But we need you to stay alert. If you see him, call us immediately." As they left, Tasha felt a slight sense of comfort, but it was quickly replaced by dread. What if Marcus didn't stop? What if the warning wasn't enough to stop him from getting closer, from carrying out whatever plan he had in mind? As night fell, Tasha found herself lying awake, her mind spinning with possibilities. She couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus was waiting for the right moment to strike, and she feared that moment was coming sooner than she was ready for. Her phone buzzed again. It was another text from Marcus. "You think you're safe? I know where you are, Tasha. I'm coming for you. Don't bother hiding." Tasha's blood ran cold as she stared at the screen. Her heart stopped. She was no longer just afraid of losing him. Now, she was afraid for her life. Tasha's world seemed to shift in that instant. She stared at the text from Marcus, her pulse racing. "I'm coming for you. Don't bother hiding." The words felt like a death sentence, and she couldn't breathe. The message wasn't just a threat, it was a promise. Marcus had never been one to back down, but now, the stakes were higher. The police had given her advice, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't enough. What if Marcus had already crossed the line from words to action? What if she wasn't prepared for what he had planned? Tasha's eyes scanned the apartment as if it might offer her some kind of protection. But everything seemed empty and cold. Her phone buzzed again, but she didn't dare look at it. Instead, she stuffed it into her pocket, trying to calm her racing thoughts. "Layla," Tasha said, her voice shaking. "What if he comes here? What if he shows up, like he says?" Layla sat beside her, her face drawn with concern. "We'll stay vigilant. You're not alone, Tasha. I'll stay with you tonight. The police said they'll send a patrol car by your place, but we can't take any chances. If you hear anything, we need to call them right away. Do you have your pepper spray?" Tasha nodded. "Yeah, I have it right here. But what if he's already inside? What if he's watching?" The thought of Marcus lurking somewhere in her apartment, waiting for the right moment to strike, filled her with dread. But Layla shook her head firmly. "He's not inside. Tasha, the police will have a better chance of catching him if you stay calm. But you have to be strong. He can't get to you if you don't let him." Tasha wanted to believe her, but her gut told her that Marcus was unpredictable, dangerous. She couldn't afford to take any risks. They both jumped when there was a knock at the door. Tasha's heart skipped a beat as she stood up. Was it the police? Or was it Marcus, finally coming to confront her? Layla motioned for her to stay back as she approached the door. She peeked through the peephole, and her face immediately relaxed. "It's just Biggs," she said quietly. Tasha felt a rush of relief. She hadn't seen her manager since the release party, but she was grateful for his presence. She needed someone in her corner right now, and Biggs was as tough as they came. When she opened the door, Biggs stepped inside, his tall frame filling the doorway. He had a worried look on his face, but he tried to hide it with a smile. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, his deep voice carrying the weight of concern. "How are you holding up?" Tasha didn't know how to answer. She felt a mix of exhaustion and terror, her nerves frayed to the point of breaking. "I'm scared, Biggs. Marcus keeps sending these threats. I don't know what to do." Biggs gave her a stern look, his face hardening. "Look, we're going to get through this. You're not alone in this, Tasha. We'll get you some help. But right now, we need to keep you safe. That's the priority." "I'm not going anywhere," she said, her voice trembling. "But I can't stay in here, feeling like I'm trapped. What if he comes? What if—" "You won't be trapped," Biggs cut her off, his tone firm but reassuring. "The police are on their way, and I've got a plan. But first, I want you to stay calm. We're going to secure the apartment. Make sure all your exits are covered, and we'll stay here until it's over." Layla nodded, her face determined. "We'll stick together. No one's going to hurt you, Tasha. Not while we're here." For the first time in days, Tasha felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't much, but it was something. Biggs wasn't going to let Marcus get away with this. And maybe, just maybe, the police would be able to do something this time. They spent the next hour fortifying her apartment. Biggs checked all the windows and doors, making sure everything was locked tight. Layla stayed by Tasha's side, offering words of comfort and support. Tasha kept glancing nervously at her phone, half expecting another message from Marcus. But the silence only made her more uneasy. Then, around midnight, a knock came at the door. The hairs on the back of Tasha's neck stood up as she turned to look at Biggs and Layla. This time, there was no mistaking it. It was him. "He's here," Tasha whispered. Biggs held up a hand, signaling for silence. "Stay back. Let me handle this." He walked to the door and cracked it open just a fraction, peering out into the hallway. Tasha could see his shoulders tense as he muttered something under his breath. He didn't open the door fully, but Tasha could see the moment he spotted Marcus standing in the hallway, his hands at his sides, his eyes full of fury. "What do you want, Marcus?" Biggs's voice was calm but forceful. Tasha's heart was in her throat. She could hear Marcus's low growl through the door. "I'm here for what's mine," Marcus spat. "You're gonna regret this, Biggs. You don't know what you're messing with." Biggs took a step forward, blocking the door completely. "You're not getting anywhere near her, Marcus. You need to leave. Now." Tasha's fear was replaced by a sudden surge of anger. This was it. Marcus wasn't going to control her anymore. She wasn't going to let him intimidate her. "I'm not scared of you, Marcus," she said, stepping forward to stand next to Biggs. "You're not the man I thought you were. You don't get to do this anymore." For a moment, there was only silence. Marcus's breath was heavy, and Tasha could feel the tension in the air. Then, he laughed, an eerie, mocking sound. "You think it's over? You think you can just walk away and leave me behind?" Marcus said, his voice low and dangerous. "This is far from over." Biggs didn't back down. I don't care what you think. Leave now, or I'll make sure you regret it. Marcus hesitated for a long moment, as if sizing up Biggs. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Tasha felt her legs give out as the adrenaline left her body. She collapsed onto the couch, her head spinning. It wasn't over. She knew it wasn't. But for now, they had won this round. Biggs closed the door behind him and turned to her, his face full of concern. We've got a long road ahead of us, Tasha, but we'll make sure you're safe. You're not alone. Tasha didn't know how much longer she could keep fighting. But with Biggs and Layla by her side, she knew she wasn't going to give up without a fight. Tasha had never known fear like this before. Every sound, every flicker of movement in the corner of her eye made her stomach twist. She couldn't shake the image of Marcus's face, the cold fury in his eyes, the dangerous way he had spoken. It felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. The night passed in a tense silence, with Layla and Biggs keeping watch while Tasha tried to rest. Though sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's threatening presence looming over her. The image of him standing at the door, daring Biggs to open it, was burned into her mind. At dawn, Tasha knew she had to take action. She couldn't just sit back and wait for Marcus to make his next move. His threats were growing more real, and there was no telling when or how he'd strike next. Layla and Biggs had already left by the time the morning sun crept through the blinds. Biggs had insisted on staying, but Tasha had begged him to go home for a few hours to rest. He'd agreed, but he wasn't happy about it. Layla had also left to take care of a few things, promising to come back soon. Tasha was alone now, but she didn't feel alone. Her phone vibrated, and she instinctively checked it. Another message from Marcus. You think you're safe? You should have known better than to turn your back on me. You'll regret it. Her stomach churned. He's watching me. Tasha quickly deleted the message, trying to focus. She had to do something. The police had been called, but so far, they hadn't been able to do much. Marcus was careful. He was calculated. He didn't leave a trail, and it seemed like he was always one step ahead of everyone. She grabbed her phone again, this time scrolling through her contacts. There was one number she hadn't thought to call until now, a name she had been trying to avoid. Ray Biggs Williams. Tasha hesitated. She knew Biggs had the connections, but she wasn't sure if she wanted to drag him deeper into this. He was already helping, but she didn't want to put him at further risk. But the fear gnawing at her gut told her that she couldn't wait any longer. She needed to make sure Marcus didn't get the upper hand again. She dialed the number, taking a deep breath as the phone rang. After a few moments, Biggs's voice came through the line, sounding groggy but concerned. Tasha, what's going on? I told you to stay inside, locked up tight. I know, Biggs, Tasha said, her voice shaking. But Marcus, he's not stopping. I don't feel safe here. I need more protection. Can you help me? Biggs was silent for a long moment, then spoke in a low, serious tone. You need to come with me, Tasha. I'm going to get you out of that apartment. We need to lay low until we figure out how to deal with Marcus. Tasha felt a wave of relief wash over her. For the first time, she felt like someone was taking charge. She didn't have to do this alone anymore. Where are we going? She asked. Meet me at the corner of 7th and Chestnut in an hour. Don't tell anyone. Don't text. Just show up. Okay. Tasha replied, her heart pounding. I'll be there. After hanging up, Tasha felt a mix of relief and fear. She knew it was time to leave, to stop hiding in her apartment. But where would she go? Could she trust Biggs completely? What if Marcus found her before she could get away? She grabbed a small bag with some clothes, her ID, and her phone, and she made sure to lock the door behind her as she left. The streets were quiet as she walked to the meeting spot. Tasha's mind raced, but she tried to stay focused on the task at hand. Getting out of the apartment was step one. The rest would come later. As she neared the corner of 7th and Chestnut, she saw Biggs's car parked at the curb. He was standing beside it, his arms crossed, his expression grim. When he saw her, he gave her a nod, signaling her to approach. She climbed into the passenger seat, and they drove off, the city skyline fading in the rearview mirror. Biggs didn't speak at first, but Tasha could sense his unease. She wasn't sure what to expect, whether they were going to a safe house, or if he was just taking her somewhere temporary. Where are we going? Tasha finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Biggs glanced at her briefly before looking back at the road. A friend of mine has a place in the outskirts of the city. It's secluded. You'll be safe there for now. Tasha nodded, though a part of her felt like she was in the dark. She had no idea what to expect, but right now, she didn't care. She just needed to get away from Marcus. They drove for what felt like an hour, the city eventually giving way to quieter, tree-lined streets. The further they went, the more tense Tasha became. Where was this place? Would Marcus be able to find her here? And if so, what would happen next? Finally, Biggs pulled into a small, secluded driveway. The house was simple, a two-story structure surrounded by trees and overgrown vines. It looked like the kind of place someone would go to hide from the world. Biggs parked the car and got out, signaling for Tasha to follow him. He led her inside, and once the door was closed behind them, Tasha felt a sense of isolation she hadn't felt before. She was alone, without her friends or anyone she could trust, except for Biggs. "You'll be safe here," Biggs said, his voice softer now. "I'll make sure Marcus doesn't get to you. But you need to stay low. Don't go out unless I say so." Tasha nodded. "Thank you, Biggs. I don't know what I'd do without you." Biggs gave her a small smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Don't thank me yet. We've got a long way to go before this is over. You can't let your guard down." Tasha looked out the window at the darkening sky, her heart heavy. As much as she wanted to believe that she was safe, she knew the worst was yet to come. Marcus wasn't going to stop, not until he had what he wanted. And what he wanted was her. Tasha spent the next few days in the small house on the outskirts of the city. But it didn't feel like a safe haven. The isolation was suffocating, the silence too loud. Every creak of the house made her tense. Every gust of wind outside felt like Marcus was creeping closer, watching her. She couldn't relax, couldn't truly feel at peace. Biggs was always on edge, checking in on her, but rarely staying long. His contacts were working on tracking Marcus's movements, trying to find out where he was hiding. But Marcus was like a shadow, impossible to catch. Every time Tasha thought she could breathe a little easier, she'd remember the look in Marcus's eyes that night at her apartment. That look of rage, of possession. He was obsessed with her. And now, he knew she had disappeared. It was the morning of the fourth day when everything changed. Tasha had just finished breakfast when she heard a faint knock on the door. She froze, her heart skipping a beat. The house was in the middle of nowhere. There should be no reason for anyone to be here. She cautiously peered through the window blinds. But there was no sign of anyone outside. She took a deep breath, grabbed her pepper spray from the counter, and approached the door. A small part of her hoped it was Biggs, coming back to check on her. Another part feared it was Marcus, standing there with that cold, deadly smile. She opened the door just a crack, her hand still tight around the spray. But when she saw the person standing outside, she almost collapsed in relief. It wasn't Marcus. It was Layla. "Thank God," Tasha whispered, stepping aside to let her in. "I was starting to lose my mind in here." Layla walked in, looking around the house with a quick, scanning gaze. "I know. This place is a prison. I was getting worried. Biggs hasn't been answering his phone. I thought I should come check on you." Tasha shook her head, trying to push the wave of panic aside. "He's probably just busy. I don't know what's going on with him lately. It's like he's been avoiding me." Layla frowned, her expression serious. "Tasha, I think we need to talk." Tasha's stomach twisted. "What is it? Is it Marcus? Has he found me?" "No," Layla said slowly. "But there's something you need to know. Something Biggs hasn't told you." Tasha felt a chill run through her. "What is it? What are you talking about?" Layla hesitated, her eyes flicking nervously toward the door. "Biggs. He's been hiding something. I don't think he's been entirely honest with you." Tasha's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Why wouldn't he tell me the truth?" Layla glanced over her shoulder again, lowering her voice. "I don't know the full story, but I overheard him talking to someone on the phone the other night. He was talking about Marcus, about getting rid of him for good. I don't think Biggs is trying to help you. I think he has his own agenda." Tasha felt a wave of dizziness sweep over her. "You're telling me Biggs isn't on my side?" Layla nodded slowly. "I think he's been using you." "Tasha, I don't know how deep this goes, but I don't trust him. I think he's been playing both sides this whole time." Tasha's mind reeled. Biggs had been her lifeline through all of this, her only ally, the one person she trusted above all else. But now, Layla was suggesting that he might have been manipulating her from the start. "No," Tasha whispered, shaking her head. This can't be true. Biggs has helped me. He's kept me safe. I'm not saying he hasn't, but think about it, Tasha," Layla pressed. "Why would he go to such lengths to help you? He's a businessman. He's always had an interest. In you, in your career. I don't think it's just about protecting you. I think he has other reasons. Tasha's chest tightened. It felt like the ground was slipping out from beneath her. Was everything a lie? Had Biggs really been trying to protect her, or was he using her for something else? Before Tasha could respond, the house phone rang, its shrill sound cutting through the tension. Tasha jumped, her heart racing. She reached for the phone, but Layla grabbed her hand, her eyes wide with fear. Don't answer it. It could be him. Tasha froze. Could it be Marcus? Or was it Biggs, calling to tell her more lies? The phone rang again. And again. Finally, it stopped. But the silence that followed was worse than the sound of the phone ringing. Layla stood up quickly. I think we need to go. We need to leave right now. Tasha's mind was spinning. But she knew one thing for sure. She couldn't stay here anymore. Not if Layla was right. Not if Biggs was hiding something. What's going on? Tasha asked, her voice trembling. I think Marcus is playing you, Tasha, Layla said. And I think Biggs is, too. We need to get out of here. We're not safe. As they ran toward the door, Tasha's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, hands shaking, and saw a new message from Marcus. You thought you could run away, but I know where you are. The game's just beginning, Tasha. You can't hide from me forever. Tasha's heart dropped. It wasn't just a threat anymore. It was a promise. Let's go, Layla said, pulling Tasha's arm. We need to leave now. This is bigger than we thought. As they hurried out the door, Tasha knew one thing for sure. No matter where she went, no matter how far she ran, Marcus wouldn't stop until he had her. And she didn't know how much longer she could outrun him.